Awesome. Welcome today. We have Percy Robertson here today that's going to talk to us about the career of or field of nursing. So why don't you start off by telling us just a little bit about yourself and how you got into the field?
Once again, my name is Percy. I've been in the field since 2013. I graduated from Bryan and Stratton. Before, probably like 20 years ago, I had thought about getting into nursing. I was actually a mortgage officer at the time. And one of my clients, she had some assisted living facilities. And I looked at her income, and I've always been in a service type industry. So being in a service type industry, whether I did route driving or worked at a TiVo back in the day at Northridge, I've always been some type of service type industry. So that kind of went along the lines of what I wanted to do. I like to serve people and I like to make them happy. So 20 years ago, in the mortgage industry, I was kind of nervous at the time as far as like going back to school. But in 2008, of course, everybody know what happened in 2008 as far as the recession is concerned. And I actually lived in Atlanta at the time. Loved it there. Wasn't my goal to come back or anything like that. But the situation as it was, I had to come back. But coming back here, I'm like, look, this is the perfect time for me to go into nursing. Failure is not an option. I'm going back to school. Signed up for school, I believe it was January of 2010. I took the TEAS test. I did not pass the TEAS test to get into nursing right away. But I did take the test because it's been 15 years since the last time I've been in school and been in college. So I was a little nervous about it. Took the test and I need to figure out what it needs to take in order to pass. Went to the library, got the book. I just basically had to freshen up. Took the test again. And I ended up passing the test, and I ended up signing up at Bryan and Stratton College. Knowing that I went back to school at 36, I don't have 4 years. I got to go quickly as possible. And I know myself, I have a short attention span, so I need something about 1.5 to 2 years. Went straight through. I got my associates, and I knew I could still get my RN within that time. So within, I think it was 2010, so 11, I graduated in 13. Actually, while I was in school, I didn't realize there was so many vast areas that you go into nursing. All I did, and all I knew was more like a med surg. You go to the hospital, you have your ailment, and that's pretty much all I knew besides the school nurse. I believe it was my last semester there, I had to take a psych class. And the teacher was like, you seem real comfortable talking to people. Have you ever thought about doing psych? And I was like, I didn't even know there was psych nursing. So she worked at a hospital, asked me to go there. I took the application, interview and everything. Of course, I had to inside on there because she wanted to refer me there. And I worked there for like 5 years. And so psych is something that I found on accident, but I love it.
What is your career and how long you been working there?
Say that again, can you read that?
What is your career and how you been working? How long you been working in the field?
Psych nursing, I did it for 5 years. But then as I'm doing the psych nursing, I realized once again, there's vast different areas that you can go into nursing. And one of the things that I got interested in is a home health or personal care and assisted living. So I'm looking at 3 different ways in order to serve the people because I like to get out. It's hard for me to stay in a certain area, like in a hospital. I like to get out, talk to people, such as I'm doing now. So therefore, if I could do an assisted living, personal care, something or home health, I can get out, talk to the people, go to their home. And so it made it a little easier. So right now, what I'm doing now is working on and doing the personal care business aspect of it right now.
What led you to your career and what barriers did you face getting there?
The barrier that I had mainly was myself, my confidence. You know, I just stated earlier, I hadn't been in school in 15 years. So you're only in regular school for 12. And I hadn't been in 15. So the barrier is really me and having the confidence to go. If you would have put me in nursing at 18, 19, I wouldn't complete it because I just wasn't ready mentally. But going up to 36, failure was not an option. So having a family of 5 in Georgia, recession, coming back here, failure was not an option for me. So it made it a lot easier as far as a decision. But nursing was probably the hardest thing I ever did academically. Hands down, the hardest thing. But basically the main thing was just a barrier mentally.
Would you encourage others to follow in your career path?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to be ready for it because nursing is unforgiving. I mean, I've seen the smartest people with 4 points throughout their high school career that they fail. And it's not because they're not smart enough, but nursing is just not a simple answer. You have to think it out and figure out what's the best thing to do. Because there could be a couple of right answers, but it's based on that patient. What does that patient need right now?
What is the biggest characteristic or trait you think someone should have before going into nursing?
Once again, you got to be ready.
Be ready.
You know, because a lot of people, once again, going back to you smart enough, oh, I did great in school, but it's more than that. Because there's a lot of people who are smart academically, they will get their 4 point, but once you get into the field, you literally and truly have to care about the patient themselves. That's the main thing, is the patient. A lot of people forget that it's the patient first. Anything going outside of that, your personal life, you have to put that aside for that patient.
Mm-hmm.
What is your biggest success?
Passing that NCLEX. Passing that NCLEX test on the first time, because the NCLEX, once people will get through everything, but then you got to take that NCLEX, you got to study for it. And the teachers say, you know, if you pass the class, the knowledge is already there. You just have to take the test, read the question, and understand the question before you answer. And I'm the kind of person, I'm not real quick when it comes to the questions. I read the question the first time, I don't even know what I just read. I read it the second time, I'm starting to understand. Then I got to read it the third time. I got to take some deep breaths, and then I'm like, okay, I understand the question, just relax. When we took tests in school, I was always one of the last 3 to leave for the test. I was like, I'm not leaving, and I'm not going to have anybody rush me. But yet there's another guy, all the 2 years I was there, he was literally the first person every time to finish. But he got good grades, but I could never understand. It's like, how did you finish this test this quick? And he would finish like half an hour before I finished. And so that would kind of mess me up. I'm reading, he'd get up and walk out, and I'm like, I'm on number 2. Like, how was you leaving? But I had to calm down. It's like, look, don't worry about him. What am I reading? Do I understand it? And we both passed the same way. We both passed the NCLEX on the first time. You just got to get out of your head, so it's really up to you to determine and get over those bridges.
You had indicated that you went to Bryan and Stratton, and you were there for 2 years, and it looks like there was probably some other things that you had to do. In order to have a career such as yours, how many years do you have to, have school? Because I heard you talk about there's like different degrees of nursing.
Well, I got an associate's, and through Bryan and Stratton, you can do it in a year and a half. But I know me. I couldn't take all those courses. I got a family. I had to work at the same time, so I took the 2-year aspect of it. And the thing is you get an associate's and a bachelor's. The associates you can get in, you're still a registered nurse. The difference is when you do a bachelor's, it's more like the clinicals are the same, but it's more in-depth knowledge as far as nursing is concerned. But you can get that through experience as well if you have your associates. You still can get that through experience.
What is the biggest lesson you took from school in the classroom to the workplace?
Be consistent.
Being consistent.
You got to be consistent. And keep your confidence up. Confidence is everything. I've seen nurses just get destroyed going through school because when you got that 4 point and you fail, like literally fail, not get a bad grade, you fail that test, it destroys them because that's the point where they've never failed before when it comes to how they never fail. So you got to keep your confidence up.
In closing, is there anything that you would do different? This is a 2-part question. Is there anything you would do different, and how would you mentor those coming after you, especially being an African-American male?
In my situation, I wouldn't do anything different because if I would have started once again at 18, 19, I wouldn't have finished. I wouldn't have took it serious at that time. And so I would have just wasted time and money. But going at the time and age that I did, I was very focused. I mean, I literally shut down life. I went to one friend's house. I didn't go out at all. I stayed in because the time that I did try to go out, I failed my test. And I was like, that was just one time. So after that, I was like, I'm shutting down life. I'm not doing anything else. So that's when the focus and confidence come in. And so you have to just, you have to keep going and don't let that destroy you. Plus I got a lot of help. So going back to the mentors, when I started, school was different, a lot different. I'm used to the teacher getting up there on the board, you open up to the page, you go over the page, and then you talk from there. When I got to school 15 years later, they got PowerPoints, and I'm like, what is this PowerPoint? They handing out stuff, PowerPoints. I'm like, this is it? And she just went over PowerPoint, so I was kind of frustrated, like, man, I'm not learning nothing. But I was learning something. But I was frustrated, I'm like, I don't want the packet, I want to go to the book. I had to adjust. So they have mentoring programs there to where I could actually go and see somebody. So after class, I will go and see her to where she could help me out. And she mentored me and tell me, basically explained everything to me that I didn't understand at that time. So it was very important to me to have a mentor.
Well, thank you so much, Percy. We really appreciate you coming in to talk with us regarding your career in the field of nursing.
I appreciate it anytime.
Let's give Percy a
Thank you.
round of applause.